If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. We've all heard snippets of ancient wisdom like this, right? But honestly, this isn't just some motivational poster quote. It is the absolute bedrock of strategy. True strategy doesn't actually start on the battlefield. It starts long, long before the first clash, with a deep, uncompromising knowledge of your own internal capabilities.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're not just dusting off some old history book, we are breaking down a timeless blueprint. Our goal is to decode Sun Tzu's The Art of War and translate this ancient military philosophy into a practical masterclass. We're basically handing you the strategic playbook you need to master absolutely any modern competitive environment, whether you're closing a business deal, playing a sport, or just navigating life's everyday hurdles.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to map out this playbook across 5 quick phases. First, winning before the battle. Second, generating unstoppable energy. Third, the art of illusion. Then, exploiting the enemy's weakness. And finally, becoming formless like water. Let's get to it.
Phase 1. Winning before the battle. This is all about securing your own defense first.
Sun Tzu hits us right away with a pretty counterintuitive idea. The absolute greatest victories aren't these glorious, aggressive, gun-blazing attacks. They are actually won by simply making no mistakes. He notes that the general skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth, while the one skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven. It's very poetic, but it's deeply practical. Standing on the defensive implies you currently have insufficient strength, so you hide, you dig in, and you protect yourself. Attacking implies a superabundance of strength. You only unleash that heavenly attack when you absolutely know you have the overwhelming upper hand.
So, how exactly do you know you have that upper hand? Well, Sun Tzu lays out this brilliant, almost mathematical sequence. It all kicks off with the earth itself, the literal terrain, which dictates measurement. Measurement then naturally allows for the estimation of quantity. How much space and how many resources do you actually have? That estimation leads directly to calculation, where you weigh your forces against the enemy's. Then comes the balancing of chances, which is looking at the hard odds. And what is the inevitable final step of that chain? Victory. It's a flawless formula that turns raw geography into guaranteed success. Once that foundation is rock solid, we move to Phase 2, generating unstoppable energy. This is where we bring in direct and indirect maneuvers.
Now we transition to the actual clash, and here's a wild thought from Sun Tzu. Controlling a massive force is the exact same principle as controlling just a handful of people. It's literally just a matter of dividing their numbers. To really grasp these maneuvers, we have to look at the number 5. You see, Sun Tzu relies heavily on the incredible power of limited, basic elements combining into infinite possibilities, all anchored by this one specific number. Think about music for a second. There are only 5 basic notes in the ancient pentatonic scale, right? But mix them up and you have endless melodies. There are only 5 primary colors, but they produce endless hues. 5 cardinal tastes yield endless flavors. Well, Sun Tzu takes this exact rule and applies it directly to tactics. In battle, there are only 2 methods of attack, direct and indirect. But combining those 2 methods creates an inexhaustible, endless series of maneuvers flowing seamlessly like a continuous circle. No one can ever exhaust the possibilities.
So what does kinetic energy actually look like on the battlefield? Sun Tzu likens it to the bending of a crossbow. Picture that for a second. It's this tightly wound, latent potential energy. Actually, it's a lot like winding a spring to its absolute limit. It's the tension of positioning your forces perfectly, setting up the board, and pulling the string back until maximum power is achieved. It's quiet, but it is terrifyingly powerful.
And right alongside that built-up energy is decision. If energy is the drawn crossbow, decision is the releasing of the trigger. It is the prompt, split-second release of all that built-up potential. Sun Tzu even compares it to the well-timed swoop of a falcon, striking and destroying its victim at the absolute perfect moment. You wind the crossbow with your clever tactics, but you pull the trigger with your decisive action.
Which brings us to Phase 3, the art of illusion. Time to talk psychological warfare. This is where things get really psychological. The ultimate trick here is that maintaining deceitful appearances allows you to entirely dictate the enemy's actions. A master strategist constantly masks their true state. Think about it. To effectively simulate disorder, you actually must have perfect discipline beneath the surface. To fake fear, you need rock-solid courage. To simulate weakness, you must possess immense underlying strength.
You are essentially hiding perfect order beneath a carefully crafted cloak of absolute chaos, all powered by that latent energy we just talked about.
And the mechanics of this illusion? Well, Sun Tzu says he sacrifices something that the enemy may snatch at it. You're basically dangling bait. By holding out apparent advantages, you force the opponent to march completely on your terms. You make them hurry. You make them scramble for a perceived easy win. And remember, whoever arrives at the battlefield first is fresh. Whoever has to sprint there second arrives exhausted. You are literally tiring them out before a single blow is ever struck.
That feeds perfectly into Phase 4, exploiting the enemy's weakness. Divide and conquer.
This is where we cash in on all those illusions we just built, forcing the enemy to constantly second-guess our intentions. Sun Tzu writes, "O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible." Now, why is being invisible so incredibly important? Because if your enemy has absolutely no idea where you're going to strike, they have to prepare to defend everywhere. By remaining completely secret, you keep your forces perfectly concentrated as one united body. Meanwhile, the enemy has to split up into tiny, isolated fractions to defend a dozen different unknown points.
And this brilliantly illustrates the horrific math of trying to defend everything at once. It's a total cascading failure. If the enemy strengthens their front van, they inevitably leave their rear exposed. Strengthen the left, starve the right. If they panic and try to send reinforcements absolutely everywhere, well, they will be weak absolutely everywhere. Their numerical weakness doesn't come from having fewer people. It comes from the terrible burden of preparing against possible attacks across the entire board. That makes them mathematically weak at the exact concentrated point you finally choose to hit. So, the ultimate goal of all this tactical dancing is wonderfully simple. The way is to avoid what is strong and to aggressively strike at what is weak. You want to ensure that you are a massive concentrated fist hitting an isolated, stretched out, exhausted target. When a united body hits a tiny fraction, no contest, the fight is over before it even begins.
Which brings us to the climax of our explainer, Phase 5, becoming formless like water. Total adaptability.
We are zooming out from specific tactics to Sun Tzu's overarching philosophy here. Just listen to this amazing metaphor from the text. Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. Water organically avoids the high, strong rocks and just flows naturally into the low, weak valleys. Sun Tzu explicitly warns that a true master never ever repeats the exact same tactics that won them a previous victory. Instead, they regulate and adapt their methods based on an infinite, ever-changing variety of new circumstances. Think about it. Water shapes its path based entirely on the ground it's flowing over. It has zero ego, it just instantly adapts. Similarly, the brilliant strategist works out their victory in relation to the specific opponent they are facing in that exact present moment. Just as water retains no constant shape, competitive environments have no constant conditions. If you are rigid, you break. If you are fluid, you constantly modify your approach to secure the win.
So that leaves us with the million-dollar question. How can you apply this concept of formlessness to your own modern battles? We've seen that true victory comes from knowing yourself, building up that crossbow-like tension, dangling bait, and striking where the opponent is stretched the thinnest. But the absolute most crucial takeaway from all of this is adaptability. It's time to stop relying on those rigid, unchanging plans that just happened to work for you yesterday. In your career, in your business, in your daily life, how can you let go of your rigid shape and learn to flow, adapting instantly and powerfully just like water?